get started asking you a little bit about your background. So tell me, where are you from? How did you end up in Dubai? What do you do for a living?
How do I end up like this?
Exactly. What happened to you? What went wrong?
What went wrong for you to end up doing this for a living, sorting out people's lives? Well, my background is I'm from a place called Middlesbrough, in the northeast of England, and I used to work for the BBC as a news reporter, and I was a freelance news reporter, and I kept chiseling away trying to get it to turn it into a full-time employment, and it never happened. For 3 years I was employed by the guys, and eventually I realised that there was lots of other things that were going on, games that were being played politically, that would do in any big corporation, that I just was never going to get the full-time job or the experience or the step up that I was looking for. So in the end, I started applying for jobs in London. They didn't come through, or they did come through, and I just thought, I don't want any of this. I want to leave the country and find a new place to go. And so the first place that came up was Dubai, and I didn't know what to think of it, but when I came out here I fell in love with it. And one of the things I loved about Dubai was it gave me an opportunity to start again. It's a real clean slate for anybody who's got an idea and the opportunity to flesh out that idea and make it work. So when I came out here, I first of all started working as an entertainer, as a DJ, and then I went to a radio station, just like what I was doing at the BBC, but then after a couple of years I ended up becoming the station manager, so I ran one of the radio stations here. After that, I was there for about 5 years, went on to another radio station, and then I just decided to get out of the whole broadcasting business. I got bored of it. You can have so many challenges, but once you've actually managed to tick the boxes, I find that I want new stuff to excite me and to keep the chaos going, that I can raise up to the challenge. So I decided to become a stage hypnotist, and I went to Vegas to learn to do stage hypnosis, look into my eyes. And then I came back to Dubai, started working with corporates to do stage hypnosis, but also I found a huge interest in the stuff that goes into the way your mind works. As a hypnotherapist as well, I studied that and I became an NLP master practitioner. That's neuro-linguistic programming, which is so important for anybody. It's like a martial arts of the mind. Putting it all together and talking to corporate groups, people wanted more all the time. And what happened to me to create the whole term life design is I became very interested in life coaching, because as a therapist for about 4 or 5 years, I'd pretty much been working with coaching people anyway. And when I talk to people who were from organizations that officially taught you and trained you to be a life coach, none of them used NLP and none of them used hypnosis. Now, there are major skills in helping people to change their mindset and change their life around, but they weren't using it. They told me I could get trained and spend a lot of money, something like, I don't know, $10,000 a year to train to do it, but I couldn't use any of those other skills. So I was slightly demoralized at first. I mean, I thought, well, you know what? Who trains the first trainer? Who tells you can actually you're allowed to do this? If you can do it, you do it. If you make money out of it and you're not hurting anybody, then great. So I decided to reinvent myself as a life designer. It sounded great because it seemed like fashion designer or interior designer. It had a name that was slightly a bit above being a coach. And I could learn coaching, I could do my hypnosis, my NLP, and put lots of other skills under the same umbrella. And so I started becoming a life designer. I started working with companies, and the feedback was phenomenal. I mean, in the time I've done it, I must have worked with something like 20,000 people in different countries, different companies. You name a corporate, certainly in industry, I've worked with people there, flown all around the world, and I've hypnotized thousands of people and helped them to create their perfect life. And it really works.
What are actually the pieces of having a perfect life? I think that's a very important thing, because a lot of people, I believe very much that people really get confused with this, and I think a lot of it on life design has to do with balance.
Absolutely.
And balance, I mean, most people think of, well, you know, there's one thing or the other, but in reality there are a number of areas in your life that you actually need to master in order to have a fulfilled life. What would those areas be?
I think the most important thing to think about is your own balance. I'll talk in a moment about the different areas to examine to be able to find it, but what might work for me might not work for anybody else, or anybody else might. Everyone's got a completely different way. The key is to use the tools to find your own way. I mean, for an example of that is you could have your best friends, you go out for an afternoon and you decide to go for a meal. you need to have a menu with lots of different items on it to make everyone's idea of how to stop themselves being hungry work. If it was just one item on the menu, it wouldn't work for everybody. Some people say, well, I don't like eating that, and it wouldn't work. So it's going to be different for everybody, but then you've got to understand what it is that works for you. And there's 8 different areas that I say in life design are very important to you. There's your happiness, there's your life purpose, there's your health, there's your confidence and self-esteem, there's your family and your relationships, then you've got to move on to your career, and then there's two other elements which I'll go into a little bit later on. But what it comes down to is they all link to each other. If you're talking about something like, for instance, take your money and career, which in most environments is what everyone focuses on. Money, 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 got to make money, got to keep my career going. But if you don't look after your health, you work so hard that you start becoming ill. You start becoming ill, you take time off work, and then your money goes down. So you've got to get the right balance between looking after your health and looking after your money and making it all a fully rounded element. For some people, I mean, what I say is imagine that you had a scorecard with 1 out of 10 to score for each of those different subjects. If 10 was perfect, then you wouldn't need to do anything to it. But that 10, for instance, suppose we talk about money, 10 out of 10 for some people might be, I want to be a millionaire. If you're a millionaire and all your friends are billionaires, then everyone's got their own jet, they've got virtually their own country, you haven't. So you're the poor guy in amongst those people. So for some people, it's not about being a millionaire. Many people turn around and say, oh, you know, I've got to have millions of dollars. But what they actually mean is, when you analyse it, they just don't want to be in debt. They want to go to a cash point and be able to take money out without worrying about the fact that it's a non-ending stream. They don't need to spend a huge amount. I mean, the most important thing is to make sure that you have a level of happiness. You can only eat 3 meals a day. You can only sleep in 1 bed. You can only drive 1 car. Doesn't matter how flash it is. 20 cars are not going to keep you more satisfied than 1 good car you feel comfortable in. And so it's a fallacy about making huge amounts of money to be able to be happy. Happiness is a completely different element to it, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So it's about getting that life balance. And most people will work really hard on things that they don't really enjoy doing. They work towards getting a balance of what society says you should be doing, rather than working towards your strengths. And it's very important you do your strengths. If you work on your strengths, the things that you're good at and the things that you enjoy, it ends up being that you can create a happy level every single day, and you get better at doing it. If you're good at it and you love it, you become better. Whereas what most people do, and that's what a conventional job will give you, and I don't mean to knock employment at all, but there is a category where they employ you and they interview you for a certain job. The job will have some things you like, some things you don't like. And when you're weak at certain things, then your boss will spend all his time, all her time, focusing on how you can improve your weaknesses. But that's going to make you less happy, because you don't like doing it because you're weak at it. And you're weak at it because it doesn't make you happy. And when you work really hard, the best you can be is average. So many people, they just need to tweak little elements of family, of friends, of relationships, of work, maybe even changing your job. Or if you have a job that pays the bills and you're happy with it, maybe you need a hobby on a weekend that balances up that bit of you that you don't look after. Getting that balance is about creating your life, and the ability to keep flowing with it is life design.